Hi, my name is Jaslyn, and I'll be presenting on equitable remedies. So, as young lawyers, we should all be aware of the great importance and presence remedies hold in civil law. They are the very solutions offered to injured parties in order to ensure justice is achieved and the legal rights of the individuals we represent are upheld. Now, generally speaking, remedies can be separated into two different factions. We have legal remedies and we have equitable remedies. Legal remedies are typically founded on common law, the Uniform Commercial Code, and statutes. In general, these remedies are intended to aid the non-breaching party in recovering their monetary damages. In contrast, equitable remedies are awarded when legal remedies are inadequate in allowing the proper recovery of damages for the injured party. Now, the distinction between the two originated in England, where there used to be two separate courts, the court of law and a court of equity. This tendency of separation was passed along to the U.S. as its colony, with some states establishing chancery courts that were intended for equitable relief and remedies. However, other states chose to not utilize a separation of courts and instead just granted courts of common law the jurisdiction to reside over equitable reliefs and remedies. As we can all see, such a separation of court did not persist, and courts of chancery have been abolished. This leaves us with the duty now to ensure equitable remedies continue to be offered as compensation and relief for injured parties. Equitable remedies are similar in their focus on creating a solution beyond monetary damages. Two of the most common ones that you might be familiar with are restitution and specific performance. While restitution is aimed at returning the injured party to the position held prior to the injury or being wronged, specific performance focuses on moving the injured party to the position they would have been had they not been injured or wrong. Now, this can be seen in the case of Rollin v. Cook, where specific performance was sought in the context of a lease agreement. The plaintiff and defendants had entered into an unacknowledged lease. However, both of the parties had engaged in part performance, as the lessor had built a balcony as part consideration for the lease term. The lessee had taken and remained in possession for 3 years until they vacated the premises prior to the term ending, which then caused a significant loss for the lessor. Now, the court eventually ruled in favor of the lessor, who sought specific performance of the lease contract. It is in cases such as these that equitable remedies could and should be utilized in order to offer relief for injured parties. Now, besides restitution and specific performance, we also have rescission, reformation, and injunction. Rescission focuses on placing parties back into the position they were prior to their contract by completely rescinding the contract and the agreement altogether. This makes it as if the contract never occurred, meaning there can no longer be any action for breach. Reformation differs in instead aiming to reform the contract instead of completely scrapping it off altogether. This remedy requires there to be a prior written agreement between the parties, for there to be some sort of variance or disagreement or difference between the written and actual contract, and lastly, for a mutual mistake to have been made. So ultimately, this remedy typically is utilized in the event the parties were both mistaken on the terms agreed upon. Now, while the previous two remedies had focused on the contract and the agreement themselves, injunction instead focuses on the actual actions of the breacher of the contract by either compelling them or forbidding them from doing a certain action that they had previously agreed to. So a good example of this is the case of Jensen v. Thornell, in which a class action lawsuit was brought by the people housed in the Arizona state prisons against the Arizona Department of Corrections, Rehabilitation, and Reentry, also known as the ADCRR. So the lawsuit aimed to challenge their policies and practices for medical and mental health care. Eventually, the court found the rights of the inmates were being violated, and they were not being treated properly. Hence, an injunction was issued that required major changes and reforms being made in their procedures and overall system. Ultimately, it is cases like these that make equitable remedies so important to examine and carefully analyze. As we continue growing as lawyers, let us continue to remember this importance and continue educating ourselves to continue to support our justice system in place. Thank you.